Welcome to Plan Today, Own Tomorrow with Guardian Investment Advisors. My name is Gary Thurman, CEO, and I am going to be your host. Now, you may be wondering, what are these guys doing? We're actually doing a whole new format where we're taking our radio show live. So it's going to be live every week when we're doing our show. It's going to be a lot of fun. And our whole goal is to make this show more localized, talk about things going on in our lives, talk about local things, and of course, we're going to talk about money as well. But here's the best part about this whole thing. I got my guys in here. I've got Bobby Futch. I got Tanner Moore. I got Tim McDermott. We've got Abby. We've got Bridget. We've got Tristan over here working the soundboard for us. And of course, we've got Rhonda, all part of this amazing team we here at Guardian Investment Advisors. So we're going to start the week every week out with a little bit of fun, just talk about what's going on in our lives and go from there. So, Bobby, I'm going to start with you, brother. How was your week?
It's been great. It's been really good. We've been busy here at the office. A lot of great people coming through that we've gotten to talk to about some exciting and interesting things. Look forward to that. Mother's Day was a little bit ago, so enjoyed that. My daughter, my wife, and her father all came over for a big dinner, so hadn't eaten much since then. We did a whole bunch of eating then to celebrate, but other than that, it's been great.
That's awesome. Tanner, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, it's been good. Busy, like Bobby said. Same thing. Busy here at work, busy at home with kids. Have a 4-year-old, almost 5-year-old that's going into kindergarten that wants to study for her kindergarten tests already. So,
wow.
You know, we're in that stage right now. So
I absolutely love it. And then, Timbo, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, Mother's Day was great. Had the two youngins screaming their head off, running around. It was chaos, but it was awesome at the same time. Right?
I feel like there's a trend, right?
No.
Not over here.
Yeah.
I've got a grandson, which was kind of cool because I got to spend, Mother's Day with Nick's wife, Morgan. It was her first Mother's Day, so that was kind of cool.
That's great.
And we're excited about that. And, got a lot of neat things going on. All right, guys, so I'm going to throw some trivia at you. I'm going to have something new all the time just to see what you guys think about this. So, do you guys have any clue what the most popular male and female names are currently in the United States? And listen, for the last 6 years, these two names have been...
Are these baby names?
These are baby names, that's correct.
I'm going with, and I should know this because we looked these up a few years ago when we were looking at names, right? But it's like,
That's not it.
Right. It was right at the tip of my tongue, and I remembered.
You guys have any clue?
I'm going to go with Michael
No.
and Arlene.
Wow.
The old ones are coming back.
The old ones are coming back.
I'm going to go John and Sarah.
Oh, wow.
John and Sarah, man. That's like
So the last 6 years,
1980s.
Liam and Olivia. 6 years in a row. Now, check this out. Number 2 is Emma and Noah,
Yeah.
which is neat. But I thought this was interesting. Let's go back to the 1940s.
Oh.
What do you think the two most popular male names and female names, or the one female name was?
Now I'm on track with Tanner. I'd go John and Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was actually Jerry and Larry.
Jerry and Larry.
And guess what the female was? Mary. Isn't that
Okay.
crazy?
Yeah.
So, Tanner, I'm throwing this one at you, buddy.
All
You
right.
ready?
Yeah.
Music trivia.
Okay.
Let's have some fun. Billboard Hot 100 20 years ago. 20 years ago, what do you think was the #1 song?
Oh, wow. So
We're talking
20
about-
years ago, I'm showing my age now. That was a senior in high school.
2005.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Senior in high school. So I'm going to say that it was a Little John song.
I
yeah.
was just where I was
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Close. 50 Cent, actually.
Ooh.
50. Oh,
In the
Candy
club.
shop. Candy
Yeah.
shop.
The candy
shop.
Yeah. Can you guys believe that? I thought that was kind of cool.
only
And
know
then we can go back 5 years ago. Anybody know what 5 years ago the top 100 song was just 5 years ago? Tristan, you should know
2020.
this.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Which top 100 5 years ago, Tristan?
It's the number one song.
Give us an artist. Or a genre.
It's actually Tones and I is the artist. Tones and I. Great song.
Tones and I don't know.
Yeah. Dance Monkey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the great song. Anyway, so a little music trivia to start the day off and some names there. So there's one thing we know as we get older, gentlemen. Life's going to toss us some curveballs. Tanner, that's right up your alley with baseball. And that's just how it goes. But if you're smart and you sit down with folks like us at Guardian Investment Advisors and you have a retirement plan, and you got to make sure your plan can bend a little bit because of those curveballs, and you got to keep your eye on the ball because things are changing all the time. And that way you're better equipped. You got a better equipment for whatever comes your way. And you can't just set your retirement plan and forget it. You can't just set it and forget it. So guys, we got some time left on this show, and I just want to, on this set anyway, I want to talk about some topics, and then we're going to get deeper into them as we go into the show. But Bobby, I'd like to start with you. One of the things we're going to talk about in the next segment is financial instability. We're seeing a lot of that in today's world. You and I just talked about it on the radio the other day.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that, and it's really coming from two different directions, right? The market is pretty unstable right now. It's given us a lot of swings up and down, which is good that it's swinging up, right?
Yeah.
But in order to swing up, it's got to come down. And we've seen some huge one-day moves in the last couple months.
Yeah,
and
the
I
second biggest day in NASDAQ history was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think that's really causing people potentially a lot of angst if they don't have a plan. And so we expect these things to happen in the market. It's part of a healthy market. Not to say that we enjoy days that are 10% down, right? We certainly don't, but we know they're coming. And so if you have a plan, it can help with that instability. And that's the other part of that is just not having a plan, right? It can absolutely just keep you up at night knowing that you want to retire. I think everybody wants to retire, except for maybe Gary. We're going to be wheeling them around here in 20, 30 years, right? But everybody wants to retire, so you have to have a plan. So you know that these big swings in the market and swings in your personal life, things like that, don't derail the plan. It helps you sleep better at night.
Yeah, and I think we'll get more into that because, Tim, we do have a unique way we do things. But I thought this stat was interesting, guys. 72% of Americans, or I'm sorry, 72% of retirees right now say things are better than expected. But why is that, Tim? They did what? They used the key word right there.
Planned.
They planned, right?
Yeah, and to Bobby's point there, it is amazing how many people we have come in the office and say, I'm not sure if I do want to retire, but they all want the option to retire, right?
huge.
They want the flexibility and the ability to say, all right, I'm going to quit this 9-to-5 job and go work at Home Depot or, be a greeter at Costco. I've heard that twice in the last couple of weeks, which is interesting. But based around that, we built their plan to be flexible so that they didn't have to worry about things in case they decided they didn't want to work at Costco or they just wanted to play golf every day or whatever they wanted to do. It was all
Volunteer
based
work.
around that. Yeah.
Volunteer
What do you
work.
think, Tanner?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing when it comes down to just especially having conversations with people, right? What we do that I feel is different sometimes is we're going to actively listen to somebody, right? And what they want, like Tim just said there, somebody may want to stop working that 9-to-5 that they've been at for 25 years, right? And the biggest thing there is the power of having the choice to do what you want to do, right? And what your interests are. And so the biggest thing when it comes to that is listening, right? And putting a plan together that's going to, build in their interests, their wants, their needs.
Yeah,
right?
it's not a cookie cutter plan.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
You've got to really listen to folks in order to help them come up with their plan.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna dig into that planning a little bit in our next segment, which I really like. Because Bobby, something you and I just talked about too, the biggest risk out there is longevity risk because it adds to all the other risks that we have. But let's jump into this just for a few minutes, guys, because I think this is the number one overstepped risk, if you call it, going into retirement. And that's our healthcare system right now. I mean, some big news has been coming down here lately from our current administration about big pharma and everything going on out there. But Tanner, I think we're seeing a lot of impact on the Medicare side of things here.
Yeah, we are. President Trump had a big announcement yesterday. I got wind of it a little bit late Friday afternoon. Somebody within the White House, it wasn't me, I found it on social media. They anonymously said there's some things happening on Monday that potentially coming down the line, and really reading through it and what that executive order stated. I texted a couple of clients yesterday that had some concerns, and this is really a long-term play, in my opinion. It's nothing that's gonna, happen overnight, right? But really, what he seems like he's intending to do with this executive order is really kind of go after the middlemen, which the middlemen in this aspect is going to be what's called the pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs, right? I won't name any companies, but they're really the middle person that's managing claims with pharmacies and big pharma. So they're the person that's in the intermediary, right?
That's all the effect to the executive order. The executive order is really based around lowering the price of drug costs to
Correct.
people on Medicare.
Correct.
Right?
And really the biggest factor there in how you do that is you have to go after these so-called PBMs, because they're really the inflator of drug prices, because we pay sometimes upwards of 10 times the price for medications than other, countries do, right?
Yeah, and it must work because we saw the shares of a lot of those companies just get absolutely hammered in the last couple of weeks.
Right. Yeah, and these are coming from the same manufacturers, the same facilities, right? Just going to different countries, and it's all about price within that country. And so,
guys, we've known this has been going on for years, right? So we've done nothing about it up until this point, and I think that's one of the biggest things. So we are going to get back into financial instability. We're going to get back into healthcare and long-term care planning. Some more things we're going to talk about on the show today. We're going to talk about taxes. We're going to talk about inflation. We're going to talk about some estate planning oversights, and we're going to talk about the old, and I keyword there, old 4% rule. And we're going to talk about a lot of other things that we're doing here at Guardian Investment Advisors to protect you. One of the things I would like to do, and I'd like to invite you guys to get a free copy of my book, Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. We've made this so easy for you to get this book delivered to your doorstep and in digital form. All you have to do is text the word book to 877-706-7526. Again, you text the word book, 877-706-7526. We are going to send this to you in a digital form. We'll also mail it out to you. And once you go through this book, I would love for you to come in, schedule a time to sit down with Tim, Tanner, and Bobby. Let's make sure we have a plan for you today so you can own tomorrow. Again, text the word book, 877-706-7526. Welcome to the show, Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. We'll be right back. Are you ready to retire? I don't know is not an acceptable answer, because if you're not ready to retire with enough money to last until your last breath, when would you like to know? We created a quiz to give you a clear idea of retirement readiness, income, Social Security, tax debt, health care. Get a clear picture of how ready you are and where you need help. Get a second opinion. It's free. Go to GIAquiz.com for your retirement readiness score. Welcome back to Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. My name is Gary Thurman, CEO of Guardian Investment Advisors. We're having a lot of fun in here today. We're talking about some great things. We started this show off with a little bit of fun, a little bit of music trivia, a little bit of name calling, if you would, here in America, what the popular names are. But we really got into financial instability and healthcare and long-term care planning. So on this particular segment, I want to dive into that a little bit more with the guys here and just get a take on it. Bobby, I'd like to start with you. We talked about financial instability, and we are seeing a lot of that. And I honestly, my feedback here is I don't think a lot of people are thinking about longevity risk. They're not thinking about living longer. They're not thinking about having an income for the rest of their life. So I'd like for the three of you to talk a little bit about how do we plan around this with our clients?
Yeah, it's an incredible thing that medicine is advancing. People are living longer. Listen, that's great. I hope that keeps going. But that presents a planning opportunity. You know, if you live to 65, you have a 50% chance to live to 85. That's 20 years in retirement, and you have a great chance of living longer than that. So, you know, this 15, 20-year retirement that we used to plan for in the past, that's a thing of the past. And you really have to be able to plan long term. 30 years is not an unreasonable time to be retired. Listen, that's great, but you got to plan for it. And unfortunately, Tanner, a lot of people say, you know what? I've been paying Medicare premiums my entire working life. I'm going to have Medicare at 65. I'm golden. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, exactly. And just had this conversation yesterday with somebody. A lot of people nowadays are coming in understanding that there's going to be a cost when it comes to Medicare. Unfortunately, this person was a little frustrated because they said that exact same thing. I paid all of this money into Medicare when I was working, right? And I'm still going to have some type of cost when it comes to Medicare. Unfortunately, that's the case, right? The biggest thing there is building it around a budget too. Obviously, your wants and your needs come first when it comes to your health care. Your pre-existing conditions and your current health plays into it. But then there's a little bit of a risk analysis that you have to think, if something were to happen, how do you want your coverage to work for you?
Yeah,
right?
and even if you have great coverage in retirement, the average 65-year-old couple is going to spend over $300,000 for health care,
And not including long-term care.
not including long-term care.
It's amazing how things are adapting to this longer lifespan that we have, and I'm not just talking about medicine and whatnot. We're starting to change legislative laws to adapt to that. Right, Social Security full retirement age got pushed out now to about age 67, where it used to be 65. RMDs finally got pushed out. This is a great thing, right? But RMDs finally got pushed up a couple years, and they're going to get pushed up a couple more years.
It'll be 75 here by 2030, right?
Yeah, so not only is the environment and the lifespan changing, but economics around that lifespan are changing at the same time, and it all just screams you need to have flexibility in what you're doing to plan for.
It sounds like to me you guys are saying that healthcare is a big part of this financial instability people have.
Without a doubt.
I mean, people are used to working for a company, having group health insurance, and it does cover a lot of things. But then stepping into the world of retirement, we go on with Medicare. And Tanner, I don't want to beat this up too much, but you and I have talked about people flat out choose the wrong Medicare plan. I mean, and I think this is huge when it comes to your retirement plan.
Yeah, just like we're all consumers, right? We all go out and shop, and whether if it's a sports analogy, if I'm playing golf and I'm hitting a driver, I'm going to call you, hey, how does that new driver hit? It's great. Okay, I'm going to go out and get that. I see that a lot when it comes to Medicare plans. Hey, my neighbor had this plan. I talked to my aunt. I talked to my sister, and they loved it, right? So I'm going to love it. It's not always the case. And typically what I talk about is, your health history is not the same. Your medications aren't the same, or doctors aren't the same. Even your risk tolerance, we talk about that in investing, right? It's the same thing for medical. Your risk tolerance may not be the same. So the biggest thing is sitting down with somebody that's licensed, that does this day in, day out, that understands the changes of the healthcare world, because these plans can change benefits potentially depending on what it is that you choose. Sometimes it's a convenience purchase, right? It's a niche market where we can sit on our couch and put a phone call in, and I can choose a plan without even getting off the couch, right? Well, is that person asking you the right questions? Are they building a plan or recommending a plan that fits your needs? That's the biggest thing that I see.
Yeah, Jacksonville was interesting for that because Jacksonville, Florida was kind of based around the Mayo Clinic, right? And there's people that literally moved to that city just to be close to the Mayo Clinic. But not all Medicare plans, Medicare Advantage plans, whatever the case may be, are built the same. And a lot of them don't cover doctors within the Mayo Clinic. Is that right?
It can be, yes. Really it comes down to, first off, if the Mayo Clinic is something that is wanted and needed, right? Number one, is that doctor in the original Medicare network? Do they accept original Medicare? Because if you have a Medicare supplement that backs that up, original Medicare is your network, right? So that's a very, very vast network across the country, right? Almost upwards of 95% plus doctors in this country accept original Medicare nowadays.
So the bottom line is here, guys, Medicare is important, right? We're saying that, and sitting down with someone like Tanner is going to be essential to make sure you're on the right Medicare plan. But Tim, I want to go into a little deeper healthcare issue here, and that's long-term care planning. I started in this business 27 years ago, and when I did that, 33% of us were going to need some type of long-term care. That number has jumped all the way to 70%. Yet here at Guardian, we're not huge fans of traditional long-term care insurance. Now, if you have it, we're going to review it, maybe make some changes, and probably tell you to keep it. But Tim, what are some things we're doing here at Guardian to help people out in making sure they're ready for, I got sick?
Yeah, just have a good Medicare plan, right, Tanner? That covers it all.
Right. Yeah.
No, and it's unfortunate that it doesn't. But Medicare takes care of what, the first 100 days? Is that right, inside of a facility?
Correct. Skilled nursing facility, you have to be in the hospital for 3 or more days before that and transition over. Yes.
And so, and the average stint in a long-term care is about 2.5 years, but 20% of people that go into a long-term care situation end up spending 5+ years in that environment. And so how do you take care of those other, 2,000 days or whatever that number actually is? And that's where we look at some long-term care. To Gary's point, the traditional long-term care has been ineffective. Not only is it expensive, and if you don't use it, the insurance company keeps it all, but you're also in a situation where now you have to pay that bill, submit that bill to the insurance company, and they decide what was reasonable and necessary and reimburse you for that portion, right? So is it truly covering everything that you really need? Probably not. And especially if you want options and some luxuries inside of that facility.
You want to stay at home.
Yeah, stay at home is a great point, right? Some of those programs have that. If we look at being self-insured, right? Take a couple $100,000 and put it into a program where we can leverage it to get you 2 or 3 times that benefit, that can be used towards long-term care. There's no restrictions. There's nobody coming back to saying, hey, that wasn't necessary, we're not going to pay for that. Yeah. There's nobody that says, hey, you have to go into a facility for it. Use the money how you want to.
Yeah, the money comes directly to you in a lot of these programs, right? So
that's right.
If you need to put a ramp on a house, you need to redo a bathroom, traditional long-term care may not pay for that. These programs will. And the part I like about it most, Tim, is if it's designed properly, the money just doesn't vanish.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, it goes down to the beneficiaries if you don't use it, or what isn't used goes down to your beneficiaries. I know Gary had a client in an unfortunate situation not too long ago, and maybe I can let you speak more to this, but the gentleman was able to use these funds to go buy a van with a wheelchair ramp and outfit. I think he did the bathroom.
Yeah, he redid the bathroom. And I was going to bring that up to you, Bobby, because the plan Tim's talking about, I love that plan. You do have to qualify for it, but it's easy to qualify for. Let's just go ahead and throw that out there right now. But some of our fixed indexed annuities have impairment riders attached to them, and that's what my client in Cleveland, Tennessee is using right now because it doubled her income to help pay for some long-term care costs.
Yeah, so a lot of these impairment riders on these fixed income annuities, you get a guaranteed income in retirement. You know you're not going to outlive it, but God forbid you get sick and fail 2 activities of daily living. They can double that income for you up to 5 years, which is huge. Is it traditional long-term care insurance? No, it's not. It's a doubled income. But the neat thing about that is that there's no medical underwriting because it's not medical insurance, right? It's an annuity chassis, so they don't care about your health. Now, don't get extreme. I don't think you can be in a home and go buy this and double it up.
Correct.
But if you're relatively healthy and you purchase this annuity product, that's available to you. And we're doing a lot of that now as part of our planning. It's income planning. Oh, by the way, that income planning can also help you cover long-term care costs without the traditional costs of these just dinosaur long-term care policies that, good luck getting one now. And if you can, you're not going to like to pay for it. So do it with your income planning.
And Tim, we got about a minute left. This asset-based long-term care plan you're talking about, we can use non-qualified money just sitting in the bank, but we also can use qualified IRA money to make sure we get you set up for some asset-based long-term care.
Yeah, just depending on the situation, what kind of assets are available. Bobby and I kind of went through this situation a couple weeks ago where the clients didn't have a whole lot in the non-qualified assets, right? And like a lot of people, they've saved for retirement through IRAs, 401ks. Most of those assets are qualified. So there's ways to plan around that qualified funding as well. And at the same time, it's kind of working in our advantage for some tax planning at the moment.
Absolutely. So what we're saying here, folks, is that you have to look at healthcare because that's going to create a lot of financial instability going into retirement. And we haven't even got into income and taxes and things like that yet. So when we come back, one of the things I'm going to ask the gentleman to do is talk about something so simple, and we call it our bucket system. Red, yellow, and green. And how we can take that simple system and create some financial stability, not instability for you, to make sure that you can live every day like a Saturday. Now, something I would like to do, just for watching our show today or listening to our show, is offer you our book, Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. All you have to do is text the word book to 877-706-7526. Again, that's 877-706-7526. You text the word book. You're going to get it in digital form. And if you like, we'll send it out to your doorstep absolutely free. Again, you text the word book, 877-706-7526. When we come back, we're going to talk about some income planning. We're going to talk about some taxes. And guess what goes with income planning? Inflation. We'll be right back. Have you ever refinanced a mortgage to get a better rate? What if you could do the same for your retirement? Interest rates rise, investment strategies shift, fixed and guaranteed products are stronger than they've been in years. If your financial advisor hasn't talked to you about refinancing your retirement, you could be leaving money on the table. It's time to explore your options. Call Guardian Investment Advisors today for a complimentary review and see if refinancing your retirement makes sense for you. Welcome back to Plan the Day, Own Tomorrow. My name is Gary Thurman, CEO of Guardian Investment Advisors. We're having a lot of fun on our first live radio show out here. And hopefully we're not having too many glitches out there for you guys. But we're really enjoying this, and we hope you guys are too. So we're talking about financial instability. We kind of beat up healthcare and long-term care in that segment there. But I want to get into something, gentlemen, that I think is so unique. I want to talk about income planning, taxes, and inflation. And we have a unique way we do it here at Guardian Investment Advisors. And Bobby, I'm going to start with you. Let's tell a little bit about our bucket system and spend some time on our green bucket. We'll let Tanner talk about our yellow bucket, and we'll let Tim talk about our red bucket.
Yeah, I'd love this strategy because it makes what can be a complicated situation and conversation a lot simpler. And really what it is it's just you have to take these three buckets, your green bucket, your yellow bucket, and your red bucket. Green bucket is your safe income producing bucket. And it's really kind of the crux of retirement planning, because if you have this old 401k, IRA, and it's sitting in an account, getting that money out in an efficient way is almost as hard as saving all that money, right? There's a lot of mistakes that can happen there. So being able to move some of those assets into this green bucket and secure an income or a personal pension for you is huge. And the great thing about that is we can do that in a way that's guaranteed. We can make sure that whatever income goals you have in retirement, in your go-go years up front, where a lot of people like to spend more money in retirement, traveling, doing those things that they've been planning to do, spoiling the grandkids, those things can be handled through the green bucket without any market risk oftentimes. And so the green bucket is my favorite bucket. So I'm glad you asked me about that green bucket, just because it lets people know that they have a plan of retirement that's going to work for them. All their needs are going to be taken care of, and they're free to have fun in the red bucket.
Yeah, a follow-up question to you, though, Bobby. Is this somewhere we put all of someone's money?
No, absolutely not. And you don't put your money in any one of the buckets.
Right.
You know, we have a lot of folks that come in here, and their money's in 401ks and IRAs. I don't want to take Tim's talk here, but the red bucket is at risk.
Yeah.
Right? And so there are some good things about each one of these buckets. Tim has a great analogy for this. I'll let him share the liquidity analogy when he's talking about it. But there are good things for the green bucket, but there's also limited liquidity oftentimes in the green bucket.
But let's go ahead and throw it out there. If we're going to talk about the buckets, right, let's get ahead of it, right? So, and this is what I tell everybody, right? You ever get the salesman that knocks on your door and you know says, hey, you can have your service quick, fast, and cheap, but you can only pick two, right? If it's quick, I'm sorry, I said quick, fast, and cheap, didn't I?
Yeah. It can be quality.
That's right.
Quick and cheap, right?
Right. And if you want quality and you
But you
want
gotta
it
pick
quick,
two of those.
That's right. If you want quality and you want it quick, it's not going to be cheap, right? And vice versa to the the other situations there, right? Same thing is true with investments. Anytime you get an investment, you get a benefit for it, but you give something up along the way, right? And so in that green bucket, we get our pretty good growth, we get safety, but we do have to give up a little bit of liquidity. You want to talk to that just a minute?
Yeah, sure. And so the three things in these buckets, just like that, are liquidity, growth, and safety. And so the green bucket has the first two, growth and safety, but you do have to give up some liquidity. And it's really not that big of a deal because you're getting these other guarantees, and you have money in the yellow bucket, and you have money in the red bucket. So do you really need to access 100% of your retirement money all at once? I hope not. Something's gone terribly wrong if that happens.
And the bigger point to that is a lot of folks put IRA qualified funds into this. And so if you do have to reach in and pull all that out, it's now taxable all at once. I haven't met many situations where that was a necessity.
Yeah, so the green bucket, you get growth, you get safety, you give up some liquidity, but properly planned, I think it is the most important bucket. Not to talk down on you guys'
Yeah,
bucket.
yeah. So Tim, finish up on the red bucket, and then we'll let Tanner talk about the yellow bucket.
Sure, yeah. And so what Bobby's talking about with the green bucket allows that client to live a stress-free retirement, because when the market's down, we know that that bucket's guaranteed and doesn't have any losses, which allows us to be slightly more aggressive in the red bucket. The old additive in the red bucket is, have a certain amount in stocks and a certain amount in bonds to kind of protect yourself.
Yeah, but based on your age, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
minus
right.
100.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's becoming a very ineffective way very quickly as economic outlooks have changed, right? We've been in a lowering interest rate environment since the 1980s. Well, we kind of bottomed out there in 2022, and now we've seen interest rates rise because they were trying to fight inflation from the 2021 issues, right? And so as rates are rising, bond values are dropping because there's a direct correlation there. And so bonds aren't really the safest place to put assets anymore.
Here's a Wall Street Journal article, right? Front page of the business section says, trade war rattles bond market. And so
Great example.
Yeah.
you take in the last 40 years of decreasing interest rate environments, add to what we're dealing with now, I don't want to be in bonds.
Yeah. And so a lot of times you'll hear us talk about the green bucket as the bond alternative. And so it's very important to the red bucket that you have a green bucket asset to offset the risk that you see in the red market.
And going back to the three things we talked about, so the red bucket gives you growth.
Yeah.
Right? Gives you the liquidity. You can get as much money out of the red bucket at any point in time as you want.
That's right.
Maybe subject to taxes, but you can. But you don't have the safety there.
Right.
But that's okay, because that's the bucket, when properly sized, is going to help you fight inflation.
Yep.
It's going to help you pay for additional income taxes if that happens. So it's worth giving up that safety for the growth that oftentimes, most of the time, is better than the red, is better than the yellow and the green bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm somebody who needs proof with these things, right? I don't know about you guys, but I like to see the proof in the pudding, right? And so if you're sitting at home today, you can Google AGG. That is the aggregate bond index ticker for the United States, and just look at the last 5 years. It is an astoundingly big loss that we've seen over the last 5 years in the bond market. That's the proof, right?
Yeah, it's down over 10%.
Yeah,
right,
that's crazy to me.
In the
That's
last 5
crazy.
years. And that's supposed to be your safe money,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So the money that's supposed to be safe and not moved is down 10%.
Yep.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
And there's really not a whole lot the economy can do in the interest rate environment we are in to fight that.
Yeah.
Right? We got to have a conversation about bonds.
So what's so important about the yellow bucket, Tanner?
Yep, Tanner.
Yeah, so the yellow bucket is going to be really where your liquid money is. It's going to be something that's safe and accessible, right? I'm a movie buff, right? So I love movies. I like using analogies. So I'm just going to use National Lampoon's Vacation.
Great
movie.
If I'm
Cinematic masterpiece.
If I'm Clark Griswold, right, this is going to be my money that I'm putting in the bank somewhere. It's going to be either in a checking account or a savings account. I can go in and I can pull it out whenever I need it. If I'm in Vegas vacation and the
Yeah,
dealer is
that's a bad
hammering me,
example.
right? I can go in and access it. I'm not saying you need to do that. We do not subject that to anybody, right? But if I'm Cousin Eddie, I may be in a mayonnaise jar buried out back, right? I can go out and get it because I don't like the banks. But it's accessible to us, right? Obviously, if it's in a mayonnaise jar, it's not gaining any interest whatsoever. But
Yeah.
if you're in the bank, you all can attest to this. If I'm in a savings account, am I really getting any growth with an interest rate?
Not in a meaningful way most of the time.
Right.
And so what I'd suggest, and Tim talks about this all the time, go find the best mayonnaise jar for you, bankrate.com.
Yes.
They'll point you towards a bank, not a mayonnaise jar. And I don't have any problem with rate shopping with a bank.
No.
You know, a lot of
Right.
people, have some loyalty to a local bank. And listen, that's important. But I wouldn't suggest you have $100,000 in savings in a local brick and mortar bank. They're going to love you for it, but there are rates now for these non-brick and mortar banks, American Express, Capital One.
Right,
They don't have
exactly.
street corner property they have to take care of. And so they can offer, now we're seeing 5+% on a liquid bank account. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right? And so you get safety in the yellow bucket, you get growth. Well, you're limited on growth. You get a little bit better now than you have in the past, and you have the liquidity. So it's important to mix all these together.
So, question for you, right? We've got a local bank. Let's say we got a local bank that opened up, and they're offering a great introductory rate for savings account, money market, whatever the case may be. The person has $500,000 and they're going to take advantage of that. What are the pros and the cons to putting $500,000 into that local bank?
Yeah, so it depends on what the rate is,
Right.
So if they're giving you a great rate, certainly take advantage of it. And when that runs out, then you're forced to make a decision, move somewhere else. With that amount of money, $500,000, I'd want to have a conversation about FDIC insurance
Yes.
and make sure you're not over the current $250,000 worth of insurance that the government gives you for that. But there are workarounds like that. Put one in your name, put one in your wife's name, $250,000 a piece. You can work with that if the rate's
Yeah.
good enough. But let's make sure you're not putting too many eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
So I want to wrap up this bucket system with you guys and just, overall what I heard from you. So, Bobby, we got a green bucket of money. That is our safe money. But we also, out of that safe bucket of money, we're probably going to create a guaranteed income stream. And hopefully that guaranteed income stream will have the multi-benefit rider attached to it. So that green bucket just plays a huge part in creating financial stability in our retirement plan. Tanner, you talked about the yellow bucket of money. That's our go-to bucket. AC goes out at your house. Transmission goes out in your car. That's where you go and you tap into that yellow bucket of money to pay for those emergency accounts, right? And we encourage everybody here at Guardian Investment Advisors, we want at least 6 months of a paycheck, so to speak, coming in the yellow bucket of money. I actually prefer 12, but we got to have some money in that yellow bucket. And Tim, what you were saying with the red bucket of money, because we have the yellow and the green, now we can get out and we can do some cooler things. Maybe we could take a little more risk. Maybe we can talk about doing some Roth conversions, but that money's liquid to you as well. But that's going to be our risk money. It's going to help you keep up with inflation and different things like that. So this bucket system, you know what, might sound a little weird, but it's simple. And I think that's what our clients like, is the simplicity of the green, yellow, and red bucket system. This is something I talk about in my book, Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. I'd love to send this out to you in digital form and to your doorstep if you prefer. All you have to do is text the word book, 877-706-7526. Again, book to 877-706-7526. You'll get a digital copy of this really quick, and then if you'd like, we'll mail one right out to you. So we got big into our bucket system on that set. I really want to talk about some income planning and future taxes in our last segment coming up on the show today. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Did you know your retirement isn't entirely yours? That's right. Your 401k, IRA, or pension is actually shared with Uncle Sam. And when it's time to withdraw, he'll be waiting for his cut in taxes. Want to know how much you might owe? Try our easy-to-use tax calculator to find out. Just scan the QR code or visit plantodaytaxbill.com. Welcome back to Plan the Day, Own Tomorrow. My name is Gary Thurman, CEO of Guardian Investment Advisors. And hey, you may be watching us and going, what are these guys doing? Brand new format for us. We're taking our radio show live. So you can still hear us on the radio. We're also going to do a live broadcast on our radio show moving forward. And we're going to try to always have as many of us in here as we can, because we all have different views and opinions on how things work. But what you have probably heard, if you've been watching today, is we are a team. We're Team Guardian, and we work together to help our clients make sure they are financial stable. They have a stable financial plan going into retirement. That's what it's all about. Folks, that includes income planning, tax planning, legacy planning. You got to look at all different types of planning when you come to work with us, and we're going to try to make it easy for you. So guys, we talked about some things that were financially unstable. We talked about health care. We talked about Medicare. We talked about our bucket strategy and all the great benefits that comes with this. But one thing we really haven't hit on hard, this is the number one fear in America, Tim, and the number one fear in America is running out of money. How are we helping folks with that?
Green bucket money.
Love it.
Bobby's over there smiling right now.
I love it.
He loves the green.
I went to Tim on purpose there because I know Bobby wanted to talk about this.
The green bucket, like we talked about in our last segment, is there. It's designed to make sure you have an income for life that you can't outlive. And it's not just for you, it's for your spouse, and it covers things like long-term care needs. I mean, these are the basis of the planning operation, so that you know you can live your life comfortably. You know you can go out to eat at that restaurant you guys like to go to on Wednesday nights. You know that you can afford that car payment and the mortgage payment and the golf membership, whatever the case may be, right? This takes the stress out of the retirement plan, and that green bucket money is really designed to do this. We'll use it for many circumstances, but it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. A lot of times it can really help with taxes. It's one of the few vehicles out there that's actually tax sheltered for those non-qualified assets, those monies that you've already paid taxes on that aren't in retirement
Yeah,
plans.
I mean,
right?
almost all taxable investments, including a CD at a bank, right? If you have a multi-year CD at the bank, you're going to get a 1099 at the end of the year, and you're going to have to pay taxes on income and interest that you haven't seen yet, right? So that's kind of a bummer. But a structured annuity can take those tax liabilities and push them out until you physically take control of the money.
Yeah.
It's a really cool planning tool.
So, Bobby, let me ask you this. So, the old rule of 4%, you got 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds. You pull 4% out a year, you're going to have money till age 90. That's the old rule of thumb that came out in the early 1990s, by the way, about the time we talked about our number one song about that being 50 Cent, Candy Shop, right? But let's think about this. These properly structured fixed index annuities you're talking about, what kind of payout percentage are we getting on those guaranteed? The 4% rule is not guaranteed.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't like the 4% rule anymore. Tim talked about the kind of bond environment now, and I think that's a big driver blowing that up. And so if you're going to plan on just taking a safe withdrawal rate out of an account, it's going to be more like 2.5%, because bonds just aren't performing.
That's right.
And I don't think they will for a while, at least how we've recognized them to do over the last handful of decades. But these properly structured fixed income annuities, some of them are paying out 6.5%, 9% in guaranteed withdrawal income. Listen, if the 4% rule still worked, which I don't think it does, if it still worked, you can guarantee almost double that distribution for the rest of your life. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
Right? Why
Yeah,
wouldn't you do that?
And Tanner, how does that, I mean, let's look at taxes. So the new administration is in the White House right now, who set the current tax rates up back in 2017. Recently we've heard the administration come out, they're going to try to extend that for several more years. So we're in the third lowest tax bracket we've ever seen in this great country. What should people be thinking about doing as far as taxes are concerned?
Yeah, well, something we always ask whenever we're in an audience, right, is we always, pose a question, do we feel like taxes are going to go up or down in the future, right? Notoriously, the majority of people believe they are going to go up, right? We don't have a crystal ball. We can't just shake it and have an easy button to know what it is. But we are in one of the, as Gary said, the third lowest tax brackets that this country has seen. So we do anticipate taxes potentially to be on the rise in the future, right? But while we're in this time, we're able to do various things to try to take advantage of that time frame, whether it could be a Roth conversion, right? That's something that's big for people. But also what we're seeing, and I kind of wanted to pitch this to everybody, is the strategies involved for retirement planning. They evolve and they change. If I were to bring an iPod to you right now, right, and hand you an iPod and say, hey, you're going to go work out, can you listen to this iPod? You would probably say, no,
I'd probably be listening to 50 Cent because that's the last
I
thing
would do
downloaded on it.
And the only reason I was close to that is I remember that on the dance floor in high school, right? Embarrassing
Yeah.
myself.
So we have a great tool to help people plan for that, Tanner.
Right.
Tax liabilities is plantodaytaxbill.com.
Yes.
Plantodaytaxbill.com, because I think tax planning is one of the most important things you can do in retirement.
Absolutely.
And I cut you off with your iPod. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay. I would just say I've got my phone, right? I've got music on it now. Products evolved, right? They change. And what we're seeing in the retirement planning space is these products are getting very creative with what they can do. And so, it's not somebody says it's not your granddaddy's retirement, right, anymore.
That's
It's
a great
different.
point, Tanner. We actually here's what's crazy. I'm a big proponent of using the red bucket for Roth IRA assets, right? Because tax-free growth is the benefit out of the Roth IRA, right? So the more growth we get, the more tax-free benefit we get. We actually sat down with a client a few weeks ago, and we found a program that gave a large bonus right out of the gate. We were able to put their their IRA asset, into this annuity program with a large bonus, and that bonus was enough that it actually paid for the taxes as we did the Roth conversion over the next 10 years. So we basically paid for his taxes funnel that money from the green bucket into the red bucket over the next 10 years, and then gave him a tax-free income that he could live on.
And let the insurance company pay his tax liability. Right, it's
And
huge.
I got to point this out. That bonus is how did they get that bonus, gentlemen?
Well, you sign a piece of paper. It's real
Well,
easy.
but is it a paper bonus
No,
as
it's
far
a-
as income, or is it actually
It's a cash bonus.
Cash bonus
And
day
so we
one.
spent a lot of time talking about that because bonuses and annuity programs have been around for a long time. And most people, we had somebody come to us and say, I love my annuity. I got a 30% bonus. Okay, that's true on paper, but that's an income value. You can't go in and pull that money out unless you get the income benefit, and you're going to see that over the next 30 years.
Yeah.
This strategy we use to help them pay their taxes, that's cash into the account day one. And so after the first year, you're spending the insurance company's money on taxes.
That's right. And Tim, I want to bring this up. We talked about these great products, these great income strategies, guaranteed income for life. I come to see you with a 401k, so it's under my name. It's my retirement plan. But I'm concerned about my spouse because maybe she's the same age, or maybe she's younger than me, or maybe she's just healthier than me. I don't want her to run out of money. Can we take my IRA, 401k, 403 money and create a joint income out of these programs?
I feel like you're teeing that one up for me. Did you
I just teed off and I hit it right down the middle, brother.
Yeah, no. What Gary's really talking about is using one of these IRA programs in an annuity program to create an income for life. And IRAs are individual accounts. They're individual retirement accounts, meaning that only one person can actually own that account. But with the advances that these annuity companies have evolved with, they're allowing that income to be joint and guaranteed for you and your spouse's life. This is important because we see quite often where a husband and wife come in, and maybe the husband was the only one that worked, or he did the majority of the saving, or vice versa. Maybe she did the majority of the saving. And so most of their assets are in one person's name, and they want to make sure that that's covered for the both of their lives, right? Mm-hmm. And so with the new programs that have kind of evolved throughout the last several years, we're seeing that joint income. Not only are we seeing that joint income, we're seeing that joint ADL doubler, that long-term care doubler. So we're solving several problems, with one program, with one change to how your plan is set up.
Yeah, so and then one more thing, guys, we're kind of running out of time here. This asset-based long-term care planning we're talking about, we can also set that up joint with non-qualified or qualified money.
Yeah,
Bobby?
there are a lot of really cool tools that have hit the marketplace in the last couple of years.
Like Tanner just said, things have evolved.
Yeah, just to try to solve these problems and these shortfalls we see with some of the legacy programs. And really, these solutions are more like a Swiss Army knife now. Instead of just, hey, this program solves one problem,
Yeah.
if you structure them properly, you can have one or two solutions that have a whole host of benefits. So you're not having to put all your eggs in one basket for a problem that may happen. We may need long-term care. You probably will. Gary mentioned earlier, 70+% of people need long-term care, but we don't have to just say, here, this is my long-term care bucket. There's a bucket that does multiple things.
Yeah, and if that money is never used for long-term care, which we hope, right? The money is passed to the beneficiaries, which I think is awesome, right? So the money never goes wasted. Folks, what you've heard today is that we at Guardian Investment Advisors try to create strategies for you. We use our bucket system to really help you plan for the future, to plan for retirement. And that's why we have Tanner on staff to help you plan for your Medicare planning. Come in and see Tim and Bobby. Let them talk to you about the green, yellow, and red bucket of money. We really finished the show strong day on tax planning. We are not CPAs, but we can help you plan and hopefully get some tax-free money in the future. You know how easy this is? I say all the time, pop some popcorn, sit down with your spouse on your couch, and go to plantodaytaxbill.com. Plantodaytaxbill.com. It's going to take you 10 to 15 minutes to fill out the information, see what your current tax rate is on what we think the taxes are going to be in the future. That will inspire you to give us a call, come in and see us, and have that conversation with Tim and Bobby about possibly doing some Roth conversions, maybe using that cash bonus plan. We just need to see what your situation is. When you come in and see us, it's absolutely free, no obligation. We're just going to educate you on what we do here at Guardian. I appreciate you guys watching Plan Today, Own Tomorrow. stay tuned next week. We'll be right back for you guys then. Take care.